Hello and welcome to another EDH gameplay video brought to you by MTG Mudster.
Errated to have affinity for generic goblin noises.
Hey gang, and welcome back. Just so you know, you can use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, one word, at FlipsideGaming.com to get 10% off orders $10 or more. You can also use the promo code at Original Magic Art on everything except for paintings. And finally, you can use the code at mtg.multizone.ca to get 10% off of your orders of singles. Using the code will help you save some money and help out the channel at the same time. Welcome back, my lovely viewers. Today's game has 4 new friends and some sweet new decks. First up, we have Aiden playing Wort, and he keeps Skullclamp, Nostalgic Dream, Shamanic Revelations, 2 Forests, Fall of the Titan, and Tormenting Voices. Jacob is playing Prossh, and he keeps a Forest, a Swamp, a Blood Crypt, an Elvish Mystic, a Sylvan Library, a Zulpur Cutthroat, and Putrefy. Yuha is playing his Atraxa deck, keeping a Swamp, an Island, Twilight Mire, Underground River, Breeding Pool, Sakura Tribe Elder, and Vraska the Unseen. Last but not least, Matthew is bringing Muldrotha to the table, keeping Kadama's Reach, Acidic Slime, 3 Islands, Ghost Quarter, and Diabolic Tutor. Aiden wins the die roll and starts us off. Aiden plays a Forest and casts Skullclamp, while Yuha gets a chance to look at Wort. Jacob plays a Forest and casts Elvish Mystic. Yuha plays a Tap Breeding Pool, passing. Matthew plays an Island and passes turn. Aiden plays a second Forest and he casts Soul Ring. He then casts Journey to Discovery, choosing to find 2 lands and puts them to his hand. Jacob plays a Swamp and he casts Sylvan Library. Yuha plays a Twilight Mire and he casts Sakura Tribe Elder before passing to Matthew. Matthew plays a Forest and passes. Aiden drops a Mountain and casts Tormenting Voice. He discards Fall of the Titans and draws 2 cards. He then taps the rest of his mana for Animist's Awakening, where X is 2. He reveals the top 2 cards. He puts a mountain into play, and he has Spell Mastery active, which lets him untap the mountain that he finds on the top 2. With nothing else, he passes to Jacob. Jacob uses his library trigger, but doesn't keep any extra cards. He plays a Blood Crypt, taking 2 to have it come in untapped, and pays 4 to cast Anger. Anger swings at Yuha, who blocks the Sakura Tribe Elder and sacrifices it, and with nothing else, Jacob passes. Yuha draws and plays a Swamp, while Matthew reads exactly what Atraxa does. We then see a Diabolic Tutor hit the stack, with Yuha tutoring for a card, and then passing to Matthew. Matthew plays a Ghost Quarter and immediately casts Harrow, sacrificing his newly played Ghost Quarter to find a Forest and a Swamp put into the field untapped. He then passes. Aiden draws and plays a Forest. We then see Mama Wort join the fray, and Aiden is ready with his tokens. He then clamps one of the poor little goblins who just wants to be loved, and draws 2 cards as it dies. Jacob draws with his library trigger and keeps just the 1 card for his draw. He pays 4 to cast Siphon Mine in his main phase, which has his opponents discard a card each, while he draws 3. Sadly, he doesn't find a land amongst those 3 cards, and heading to combat, decides to hit Aiden with all of his lovely lands for 2 with his Anger. Yuha plays a Mox Diamond, discarding an island as it comes in. He then pays 5 to cast Norn's Annex, which leads me to believe he's running a Super Friends deck. Matthew plays another Swamp for turn, and casts Kadama's Reach. He finds a Forest and an Island, putting the island to the field and a Forest to his hand. He then plays a Nile Spellbomb and passes to Aiden. Aiden drops his 3rd mountain for the game, and casts Hordling Outburst, tapping Wort and his token to conspire the spell, gaining a 2nd copy of it. This gains him 6 tokens as a result, and he then clamps 2 more unsuspecting goblin tokens to draw 4 cards. Aiden then goes for some more lands with Cultivate, and passes. Jacob uses his library again and plays it safe by not taking any extra cards. He casts a Rakdos Signet in his main phase, and then drops Zulaport Cutthroat. Once more, he swings Anger at Aiden and passes to Yuha. Yuha draws and plays a Swamp. He pays 5 to cast a Foily Doubling Season, which only solidifies my earlier statement of thinking he's playing Super Friends. Matthew plays a Verdant Catacombs, taking 1 to crack it and goes to find a tropical island. We then see an Acidic Slime come in, and as it enters, it blows up the Doubling Season, and with nothing else, Matthew passes. Aiden draws and plays another mountain. He taps 5 mana to cast Shamanic Revelations, and with the spell in the stack, conspires it. This lets him draw 12 cards, which is a good thing. We then see Aiden cast Battle Hymn, conspiring it with 2 of his goblin tokens to gain 12 red mana. He then drops Howl of the Horde, which he conspires as well. Using some of his remaining mana, Aiden then casts Harvest Season, gaining 3 copies of the spell, and goes to find 18 basics, which is assuming he still has that many. Surprisingly, he does. Using the rest of his floating mana, Aiden then casts Volcanic Visions, a card I heavily associate with Trevor. But Matthew is ready with his Spell Bomb, sacrificing and paying 1 black to draw a card and exile Aiden's Yard. With his plan foiled, Aiden then passes, moving to discard. Jacob uses his library, but still keeps only the 1 and plays it, a Care Keep. He taps out in his main phase to cast the Dragon Daddy Prossh, gaining 6 kobolds of Care Keep as he casts the spell. He then heads to combat, and Anger follows the beaten path towards Aiden for 2. Yuha plays the old school City of Brass from Arabian Nights, and casts Vraska the Unseen, down taking her to kill Wort. With nothing else, he passes. Matthew plays a Forest, and asks to look at everyone's yards. He casts his own Diabolic Tutor to find a card, and then casts Yavimaya Elder and passes to Aiden. Aiden draws for turn and plays a Mountain. He's got a ton of mana at this point, and taps 8 forests to recast Wort, gaining 2 more red-green goblin tokens as she enters. He then puts a Comet Storm onto the stack without counting up all of his mana, and uses the multi-kicker to target each of his opponents. Unfortunately, he's only able to put 16 into the X, and conspires it, which means that they only deal 32 damage to his opponents, which isn't enough to kill them. Dismayed, Aiden passes turn. Jacob uses his library trigger and really doesn't want to take any extra damage now. He plays a second Harvest, which he'd just drawn, and doubles his Kobold tokens to 12. He sacrifices the tokens and Anger and the Mystic to Prossh, which drains his opponents for 14 each, while gaining 14 life, and also pumping Prossh by plus 14, plus 0. And unfortunately for Yuha and Matthew, this is enough damage to take them both out. He then realizes that all he needs to do to win the game is sacrifice the Cutthroat itself to Prossh to deal the final 20 he needs to take Aiden out, and Jacob wins the game. Well, that was interesting. Today's game didn't feature any mistakes that I could see, but unfortunately did have a few misplays. Looking at Aiden's side of the board first, I think he did a great job of showing how powerful Conspire can be in red and green, and his play with Harvest Season getting 18 basics put him so far ahead. Unfortunately, as he was doing the math to see if he could kill his opponents, he forgot to factor in the 8 mana he would have lost as a result of casting Wort, which ultimately was what caused him to not win the game. I feel for him since I often have trouble with math. I think unfortunately for Yuha, his deck is very powerful once it gets going, but he seemed to lack any of the early on ramp to start bringing out his Planeswalkers. The deck also runs a lot of ways to protect him and his planeswalkers from being attacked, but unfortunately doesn't stop him from getting blasted by spells or side effects like the Zulaport Cutthroat. I think Matthew was a little bit too focused on looking ahead into his game plan. The turn where he cast Diabolic Tutor, if it were me, I probably would have gone and found a counterspell, since Aiden untapping with so many lands was bound to be something bad. I will say that I did like his Nile Spellbomb usage on Aiden's graveyard when he was trying to use Volcanic Vision to wipe the board, deal some damage, and get back key spells. And last but not least, we have Jake, who I think was in the right place at the right time, and despite the fact that he didn't have very many lands, drew exactly what he needed to win the game. It really came down to the wire at the end there, since I think if he wasn't able to kill Aiden had a very good chance of overwhelming him the next turn. Zulaport Cutthroat in particular has been a recent welcome addition to any Prossh deck. It's functionally a very similar Blood Artist effect, although it triggers less often, but it does hit all of your opponents, making it potentially better. I know a lot of people have been asking to see another Prossh deck in action, so hopefully this satisfies you. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.